I'm Arpi, and I am a 5-year celebrant this year. And I just wanted to share my story. And I think when I reflect on the last 5 years of my life, I really want to start from the beginning with you. And so, um, from the time I was young, I was raised in a very ethnic home. Um, English was not our first language. And I grew up with a very strict church going family. My dad was a pastor, and we moved around a lot. And when I was very young, you go through things in your life, right? That just prepare you to walk through another challenge, one challenge after another. And I felt like throughout my life, I just couldn't catch a break. And when I was 9 years old, my parents divorced, and that was really tough. And then kind of being immersed into more of an American culture was difficult. And I ended up becoming pregnant at a very young age. I was 16 years old in 10th grade, and I found myself pregnant. And I had to grow up really fast. And I am so lucky. Her dad and I've been together since we were 15 and 17. And so together we raised her. But it seemed like there were just challenges after challenges. And as the kids got older, we moved out on our own. Financially, that was tough. We were military. And then when I was 30, I lost my mom. And I didn't know if life could get any worse at that point. I just felt like every time I would try to get ahead, life would knock me back down and really throw me into a deep depression. And I began to experience depression and anxiety, and it started to affect my children and my marriage. And then um, at 38 years old, I found myself diagnosed with cancer. And I had no really family history in cancer. The funny thing is back in 2011, I found myself working at Cancer Treatment Centers of America in Zion, Illinois, and I started filing medical records. I had no experience whatsoever. And you don't, even though we're working with cancer patients every day, you don't ever think it's going to happen to you. And then it does. And at that point, I was with CTCA for 6 years. And I just remember being in that moment and thinking to myself, how did I get here? And so back in September of 2016, my girlfriend was getting married. And that morning, we all woke up in the bridal suite, and I noticed a lump in about 11 o'clock in my right breast. And I mentioned it to my girlfriend, and we kind of just shrugged it off. Really, no reason to think that there would be an issue. And looking back on it now, it was an issue, and I probably should have done something right away. But I did some reading. I WebMD'd it, and I didn't have any of the symptoms, so I just went along with my life. And then in December, while my family and I were vacationing close to the holidays, I woke up one morning and my breast was on fire. And we'd made a few jokes about it, thinking, gosh, what is that? And I could, it was alarming. What I felt in my breast was very large, not the same thing I'd felt just a few short months before. And so that was a Sunday. We rushed home. And on Thursday, I went into my gynecologist, and I kind of waited to see if she would say anything. I had my annual normal exam, and she did the breast exam and glazed right over it. She did not feel it. She didn't seem alarmed. And when I asked her to do the exam again, she said that it just felt like some, swollen glands. And so she did some labs and sent me on my way. I got a call later that day that all my labs were completely normal and I was healthy and there was no reason for alarm. But working at CTCA, you learn that it's always better to be seen by a specialist. And so I got a referral to have an ultrasound and a mammogram. And that was on a Thursday. The next day, CTCA had me in there right away. And everything just kind of happened really fast. I don't even think I took a breath. Uh, the doctor came in after the ultrasound. The radiologist entered the room and made some small talk, which seemed really strange to me, very friendly. And then he just said something that I couldn't even wrap my brain around, and that was that this doesn't look good. And I'm not comfortable sending you home today without a biopsy. And man, that was a slap in the face. And so I refused the biopsy because I was terrified. I'd never so much as had a cavity filled. And so I went home and my husband, I called him on the phone right away and he's yelling at me to go right back to the hospital. But I just needed some time to process. And I'm so thankful that this provider respected my wishes and gave me some space. But he knew that there was something wrong. And so Monday morning, he called me at work and he asked me to just give him 30 minutes and he would make sure that I didn't, suffer. And so I called my girlfriend, Makara, and she met me there. And we ended up having the biopsy done. And I knew in that moment that I was about to go through something that every single trial that I had already experienced in my life had prepared me for this one. And so 48 hours later, I did receive the diagnosis. He said he didn't really know what it was yet, but it looked aggressive and that it had already spread into my lymph nodes and they didn't know how far it had gotten. And so that was a Wednesday. And on Friday morning, they had me scheduled for labs and tests and scans and a lot of appointments. But I was so lucky because at CTCA, we are all under one roof. We have this integrative care model where I had one scheduler who handled everything for me. I didn't have to put the guesswork in or wonder if I'm going to be able to make it to this appointment because I have another appointment scheduled somewhere else. And that really helped emotionally because I was walking through a tunnel. And by the time I saw the oncologist, he gave me the news that I had stage 3 triple negative breast cancer, and that only about 8% of women diagnosed with breast cancer are triple negative, and that the prognosis isn't typically good. They don't know much about it. If you remember, my labs were completely normal. That's because triple negative breast cancer is completely absent of any hormone receptors. And so they can't use the same targeted hormone therapies that they would use on a breast cancer who was estrogen or progesterone positive. And so I saw the oncologist. My doctor is Dr. Citrin out of Zion, Illinois, and he is just an amazing man. He is probably the most important man in my life because he saved my life. And I met with the surgeons the same day and the radiation oncologist. Because of the type of cancer I had, there were different ways that we could approach it, knowing that we would need to approach it very aggressively. And so they explained it to me very carefully. They knew that the terminology that they use, they hear every day. It was so new for me. And so they really helped to make sure that we understood what the options were and what the risks were. And so we chose to move forward with chemotherapy first. I was on Taxotere, adriamycin, and Cytoxan all at once. I had about a 6.5 hour infusion. And that was really tough. I would do that every 3 weeks. And I had 4 rounds of that chemo cocktail that really affected me. I lost my hair. I developed sores in my mouth and my tongue. Um, Chemo was probably, I was at my lowest, and I'd never been so close to death before, and I was fighting for my life. And there were days that I didn't want to fight anymore. I went through a unilateral mastectomy after 4 rounds of chemotherapy. And unfortunately, I did not have a pathological response to the chemotherapy. It had spread through my lymph nodes. And so I I had to go back for more chemo. And at first I refused that. And then my children reminded me that I'm only 38 years old. And so I went forward with extra chemotherapy. I did 2 more rounds of just the Taxotere. And then in July of 2017, I started radiation therapy at CTCA in Zion still. And unfortunately, at that time, I already had an implant. I had immediate reconstruction at the time of surgery because I was healthy. I was a non-smoker. There was no reason why I couldn't. But due to still having evidence of disease, I now had to undergo radiation, which wasn't the original plan. And unfortunately, that threw me off for the next 4 years, to where I ended up developing a very serious illness and have had to go undergo another surgery. I've actually had 3 more surgeries just to correct the issue that my body had. I'm feeling so much better, thankfully. And on August 15th of 2017, I celebrated being cancer-free for the first time in almost a year. And so I have had so many amazing things happen since then. And I try to think back of all of, all of those defining moments in my life and what cancer brought into my life. I am no longer the same person I was before my diagnosis. I am so thankful that in the last 5 years, I graduated with my bachelor's degree, and I was promoted at work, and I celebrated my 40th birthday. My husband and I have celebrated 25 years of marriage together. And I've seen my children graduate high school and college. And these are all things that I'm so thankful that I've lived to see, because those are things I would have missed out on. And on my third anniversary, August 15th of 2020, I competed for the title of Mrs. Arizona America, and I won. And I had the honor and the privilege of being able to serve the cancer community throughout the state of Arizona, and get involved with different organizations and different nonprofits, and serve my time and help raise money for research for triple negative breast cancer. And I got to experience the national stage at Mrs. America, and then move on to do even more exciting things. And today I am honored and privileged to spend my time with the cancer fighters here at CTCA. This community is really why my survivorship has been so successful. Survivorship is tough. You spend a lot of time questioning what you just went through, and you don't want it to be in vain. And emotionally, it's tough to get past. You feel like it's always in the rearview mirror, and that you're just waiting for it to come back. But the moment that I began to share my story and give my time and serve my time, I began to heal myself. And so I'm so thankful to the cancer fighters for allowing me, even during my journey, they allowed me a platform to share and to heal and to inspire others. And I'm so blessed to be a part of this program. Thank you.